Greetings and welcome to our Star Trek show, The Prime Directive. I'm your host, Jefficho, and my co-host here, Chris. Say hi, Chris.
Hello.
Today we're going to be discussing Star Trek Beyond, the movie that just came out on Blu-ray and DVD. Not enough people have seen the new one, and personally it was one of my favorites of the new Treks. Chris, what were your thoughts on it?
I definitely got to agree with you there, especially coming out of Into Darkness. It was really nice to see them take a bit of risks and do a more original story, not relying so much on pre-existing Star Trek. And even more than that, this movie also had things like themes. It had a strong message that it wanted to convey to the audience.
Yeah, it definitely had more of the Star Trek feel to it, like the original movies, where they were all together and unified. Despite all that, Star Trek Beyond raked in $343 million worldwide, which was somehow considered a disappointment compared to Into Darkness, which was more around $467 million. Chris's thoughts on Into Darkness.
Alright, so we're going to break this down into beginning, middle, and end, and talk about what we liked and didn't like in each section.
Chris, let's start with the beginning.
Really? Alright, okay. Well, shit, it's your show.
Alright.
I found this in Chekhov's locker. Wow. Right? I mean, I always assumed he'd be a vodka man.
Vodka guy, exactly.
So Chris, I love the opening. I love the whole, I ripped my shirt again. What were your thoughts on the beginning?
Yeah, right off the bat, we're getting into it with some real good references to the original material. Of course, we get the beautiful two-handed punch, which is just the pinnacle of human combat right there in the Starfleet basic training.
I liked that the movie was more philosophical and smarter than the last two. It was a callback to the original a lot more, where it wasn't all just space battles and laser guns.
Yeah, absolutely. Star Trek's always been a little bit more than that. Of course, it's always been there. But it's nice to get back to a point where it has something to say and something it wants to make you think about.
I know you were big on the warp effect in this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh boy. So right near the start of the film, we get this gorgeous shot of the Enterprise in warp. We're seeing it from a side profile, and the space is just rippling around the front of the ship as it moves. Just visually one of the most beautiful things I think I've ever seen in a Star Trek film. Just looks incredible. And
no, J-Lo was pretty hot.
Well, we'll get to her.
Okay.
Now, it's difficult to know how intentional this was on the part of the filmmakers. It could just be a bit of a coincidence. But I found a very interesting post on this warp effect on the internet, and I'd like to share it with you guys. So the general idea was that in one of the Star Trek novels, which are of course non-canon, I believe it was the Federation series of novels, they mentioned that the shape of the Starfleet insignia, a little com badge here, is apparently derived from the shape that a warp field makes around a ship as it's moving at warp. Now, if you overlay a picture of the Starfleet insignia onto the warp effect that we got into Beyond, it matches up pretty well. And again, that could just be a coincidence. It could be a little nod to the novels, which, if it is, I think is really cool. But that's another little dimension to probably one of my favorite half seconds in the movie.
Well, Justin Lin, the man that directed Star Trek Beyond, is a huge Star Trek fan. I'm pretty sure he read a lot of the novels, so maybe he did it intentional.
That'd be pretty cool if he did.
So the movie starts out with the Enterprise heading to the Yorktown station. This marvel in engineering for Starfleet. It's not like the original series with some toilet paper rolls all painted up to look like a space station.
Yeah, I think the Yorktown is what starbases always should have looked like, if they'd had the budget for it. Sort of like starting with the original series movies, we got a much different look for the Klingons, which was, again, just because they only had the budget for white guys and grease paint back in the 60s. One more quick thing I liked about the Yorktown segment was how Spock mentioned specifically that they decided to build it in space instead of on a planet, so to avoid showing favoritism to any particular Federation world, which is a lot like how the American capital of Washington, D.C. is in the District of Columbia instead of any given state.
I like how Bones called it a giant space globe in space. Pretty much a monstrosity.
That's nice, Jeff.
So once the Enterprise arrives at the Yorktown, the relationships start coming to the forefront. Spock gets some bad news, he breaks up with his girlfriend. I think he had the hardest time. And we also get Gay Sulu.
Gay Sulu confirmed.
Yeah, I really like that his daughter was in it from Generations.
Yeah, and they gave you a bit of a fake out there, sort of the voiceover from Kirk talking about families and relationships, and you see a picture of Sulu's daughter. And then later you realize, I guess she's adopted.
Yeah, it was a nice little touch of them throwing the writer Doug Jung in there as his husband.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We also got a slightly more realistic look at how a universal translator might function. In all the other movies and series, there's no delay between what the alien is saying and what we're hearing. So the audience kind of has to wonder if this is something that's maybe being beamed directly into the crew's heads, or if it's just a plot convenience so they don't have to deal with two things being spoken at once.
Yeah, it's a nice way for them to move the story forward, deal with the distress of this alien creature, and...
We need a ship capable of navigating the nebula. You must have someone who can help us.
So the action picks up when the Enterprise arrives at an unidentified planet and is attacked by a swarm of these mechanical ships. It's disabled, it crashes on the planet. We get to see a Sasha section crash on the planet again. And I also enjoyed the fact that Simon Pegg jumped inside of a torpedo. We haven't seen that before.
Yeah, that was much more brutal destruction of the Enterprise than we usually see. We get into cells being taken clean off by the swarm, and we get introduced to our main villain, Krall, and he gives the order to cut her throat, and then that separates the Enterprise saucer from the rest of the ship.
So once they get down to the planet, they all pair off. Chekhov gets a lot of screen time with Kirk as they're propelling their story forward. So Uhura and Sulu are learning more about Krall, and then you got Bones and Spock and their comedy routine.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was really interesting about their story is, despite Spock being very critically injured, you never actually get to see the green of his Vulcan blood. You get sort of some shots of his shirt, and it's a little wet, but you never actually see on screen that he's green-blooded. And I wonder if that was an intentional choice by the production for whatever reason.
Yeah, maybe they're alien phobic or something. They didn't want to show us green blood.
Yeah.
Will we get pink blood one day from Klingons?
It's Pepto-Bismol blood, Jeff.
That's true. I also really enjoyed Scotty and Jayla. She was a great addition to this. The posters for it were exceptional. Like, call back to the motion picture.
Yeah.
It was really nice. And her character had such a tragic backstory. I love the actress playing her. Good martial artist. Gave us all the action I want. I always love a little bit of kicking. Jayla also introduces us to USS Franklin, which was a nice callback to Enterprise.
Yeah, it's really good to see those designs popping up again, and it's nice that the filmmakers are respecting the canon that came before the timeline split in Star Trek 09. We even get a little bit more callbacks to Enterprise when they're giving the names of some of the equipment on the Franklin, and when Krall talks about the Xindi Wars later in the film.
So we learned that Krall plans to destroy the Yorktown, so the Enterprise has got to whip up the Franklin into shape and get her out into space and battle the drone army.
So this, of course, leads us into the big action set piece of the movie, where the Enterprise crew has to destroy the entire drone army with the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, they bring the beat and the shouting.
They absolutely do.
You know, it scared me a lot because the trailers with the Sabotage song, it just did sit right with anybody until they released like maybe that third trailer. But once it started in the movie, I was just like all for it.
Yeah, I was right with you there, being a little uncomfortable with the Sabotage song in the trailer. People were even uncomfortable with it just being in the first movie. But yeah, I felt it fit.
It fit great.
Kirk and Co. do succeed in destroying pretty much the entire swarm with the beats and the shouting, but you can't stall the Krall, and he blasts right through the doors and into the Yorktown.
So we learned through some VCR rewinding that Uhura's been doing on the Franklin that Krall is actually the captain of the Franklin, Edison.
Edison is Krall?
Krall is Edison.
Edison is Krall?
Yeah, Krall is Edison.
Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is a man! Oh my God! Einhorn is a man!
So the final action sequence is Kirk battling Edison on the Yorktown over a big bioweapon, but he manages to toss him out into space.
Can't just jettison the Edison, Jeff.
Your puns are ridiculous and killing me.
Okay.
So let's talk about a few of our positives and negatives.
It's not even a pun, it's just 4chan shit. Can't stump the Trump, Jeff. Yeah, so just like I mentioned earlier on in the video, I really liked how we had a strong theme in this movie. It really had something it wanted to say. The theme was unity. Jeff, did you pick up on that?
It must have been very subtle. It was hard to tell.
Really? Okay, because there were a whole bunch of different places. Yeah, we get that message from Kirk right when they're entering the asteroid field.
Crew of the Enterprise. Our trajectory will take us through an unstable nebula, one which will disable all communication with Starfleet. We're going to be on our own. The Enterprise has something no other ship in the fleet has. You. And as we've come to understand, there is no such thing as the unknown. Only the temporarily hidden. Kirk out.
We get a little bit from Jayla when she first meets Scotty.
Fix something.
Yes, you help me and I help you.
All right, well, things being as they are, I doubt I'll get a better offer today, so lead the way.
Good.
We get lots of it from interactions with Crawl and the Enterprise crew.
Lieutenant, unity is not your strength. It is your weakness.
Even Scotty gets in on it, saying, "You can't break a stick in a bundle."
Right. Individually we are weak, like a single twig. But as a bundle we form a mighty faggot.
One thing that did bug me is I feel like the message got a little muddled in the end, in the sabotage scene, because we've spent the entire movie trying to justify to Crawl that no, unity is our strength comes from unity, and he's trying to push at us, no, unity is your weakness, strength comes from conflict. But we, the good guys, the Enterprise crew, use the unity of the drone army as its weakness, and the fact that they're all interconnected and working together is what allows us to take them down.
It was probably just a production company saying, we want a lot of themes in this, so they pushed too many themes.
Uh-oh.
Bit convoluted, but whatever. So this film definitely delivered for me. A lot of pressure was put on Simon Pegg to deliver a good script for the 50th anniversary of Star Trek.
Absolutely, he did a great job, and I hope he stays around as part of the process for writing in future movies.
Well, thank you for watching.
As always, you can tell us what you thought about the film by leaving a comment below. One little nitpick I want to have about this is when everyone's calling it classical music. Classical is an actual period of music, and the Beastie Boys were not part of that period.
You can make classical music now, though.
No, it's like an actual period. It was like it was an actual period. The classical period of music is 1730 to 1820.
Because, you know, I consider the Wonder Woman theme classical music.
Well, I mean, you consider it a classic, but not classical music.
No, it's anything with violins and shit.
Violins and
I like
shit.
classical music.
Well, there's no violins and shit in the Beastie Boys.
I could find it. I could find you classical Beastie Boys.
Yeah.